Hi, I'm Analee, and welcome to Dreaming Consciousness 101, a complimentary course on behalf of One Sweet Gaia and New Earth University. I have designed this course with the intention to set you up with a foundational framework for you to understand the reality of your dreaming consciousness. And once you have this foundation, you will then be ready to move further and deeper into a dreaming practice. My belief and my approach is that dreams are a frontier into the fullest embodiment of your consciousness and self-actualization. So I invite you to explore dreaming consciousness with me. And if you'd like, take a moment here to grab something to take notes with, and then let's begin. So as we start, let's ground ourselves with an objective, scientific, and behavioral look at what happens to our bodies and our brains when we're sleeping and dreaming. So fact is that every human dreams every single time they go to sleep. Whether they remember it or not, we all dream. It's inherent and universal in what being a human is. And if we look throughout history, across the world, different cultures, all throughout time we find reference to the fact that people have been dreaming. And we all need sleep. Sleep is imperative for our vital functioning and essence to operate in our daily lives. It's a time when our entire body, our digestion, our hormones, our chemicals, our mental, our emotional state can recalibrate, replenish, and refresh itself. And there are 4 stages to sleep, stage 1, 2, 3, and 4 accordingly. And as you sleep throughout a series of hours, you'll go through these different cycles of stages 1, 2, 3, and 4 over and over again. And each cycle takes about 90 minutes or so. And within these stages of sleep, there's also REM sleep, which stands for rapid eye movement. And this is the stage of sleep associated and linked with dreaming. And REM sleep looks different physiologically and mentally than the other stages of sleep, which is quite interesting and makes a lot of sense when you look at the content and themes that come up in your dreams. So we're going to take a look at that in just a moment. I'd also like to add that as you go through these different stages of sleep, they're associated with different brainwave functioning. And it has this easy pattern of basically coming from a waking, normal, busy thought, mind, and body into lighter relaxation, and then to deeper relaxation and dreams, and then into deep, deep relaxation, and then back up again. This is what our brain waves look like and the different stages of sleep look like. And individually, the amount of sleep each of us needs varies. When we're younger, as children and babies, we sleep longer and have longer amount of time in REM sleep. And as we get older, we need less sleep and spend less time in REM sleep. As well as when you take one given night of sleeping, during the earlier hours of sleeping, you spend less time in REM and more time in the other stages where your body is just simply relaxing. And as you go later into the night, into more hours of sleeping, you spend longer amounts of time in REM sleep, meaning that you'll have more time in dreams and more possibility to remember dreams as you go later into the night. Our brains look different in REM sleep, as I had mentioned earlier, and this part is fascinating and helpful when you look at the content that happens in your dreams, because the brain is wired in a certain way to only allow or not allow certain things to happen. So when you're dreaming, the parts of your brain that are shut off are will and control, and rational thought, and episodic memory, normal control and sense of functioning. So these are all things that we cling to and that define our normal waking lives. We put things in order chronologically with episodic events. We feel a certain sense of control or understanding of the choices that we're making, and we think analytically and logically. These are all factors of like the prefrontal cortex, our most newly developed parts of our brain that we pride ourselves on as a species, as a culture in this day and age. And when you go to sleep, these parts don't work. The parts that are active during dreams are the parts of your brain that associate everything in relation to self. If you've ever heard the saying that all figures in your dreams are a projection of yourself, for the most part this is true, because the part of your brain, like I just mentioned, that is active is the sense of self, everything in relation to self, a very ethnocentric and egocentric interpretation on what is around you and the scene and the different people and characters that are involved in the dream. They're all a reflection of you and how you relate yourself to those objects. The other part of your brain that is active during dreaming is the part that codes symbols in reference to self, as I just mentioned, and also emotionally. So when you see a certain object, person, or living or non-living in your dream, it's coming from a place in your brain that interprets it emotionally, that gives you a certain relationship based off of your conditioning, your history, your life experiences. For example, if you see a car in a dream, it's not the same for everybody. It's interpreted differently because we all have a different emotional relationship to it. So somebody seeing a car in their dream, that might mean work, because maybe they work by driving places often throughout the day and most of their hours are spent in a car. And maybe that also brings up feelings of stress or burden or finances, things of that nature. Somebody else who sees a car, it may be, a 16-year-old who just got their driver's license and just got their first car. So they see a car and they see opportunity, they see adulthood and liberation and freedom, things like that. All of the objects that we see in our dream are in reference to our emotional interpretation. And the tricky part with this as well is that our emotional relationship to certain objects change throughout our life. So whenever you see these objects, it's not going to have that same emotional meaning every time it pops up. You're going to have to think temporally and contextually to what was going on for you in a certain stage of your life that you were interpreting emotionally to give meaning to that object. So it requires a lot of deep introspection and awareness of your emotions to be able to understand these dreams, when you understand the fact that your brain is holding the information of your emotional relationship to that object during dreaming. The other part of your brain that's active during dreams is the part of your brain that has a sense of movement and sensation. So this is largely kinesthetic. This is, in your waking life, we think a lot and we think more at the forefront of like task orientation or something that's stimulating or bombarding with our senses, We're not deeply rooted in our physical body and how we're spatially oriented, or our body language, or other things that we're registering physically as we operate. And when you're looking into your dreaming brain, this part of your brain is active and is giving the content of your dreams, physical sensation and movement, and that sense of proprioception in the environment. So this also makes sense when it's a little harder to interpret dreams, because that's the part of your brain that's active, not the logical, not the analytical, or whatever I had mentioned earlier. It's physical sensation and movement. The other part of your brain that's active during dreams is the language of metaphor. This is more abstract thinking. A metaphor, for example, the moon shone like a pearl. And so when you're dreaming, your brain gives you these different poetical, metaphorical relationships. It's not inherently literal or, objective or concrete. It's not at face value. You have to look a little deeper into your own relationship and language in your brain with metaphor to what certain symbols mean in your dreams. The other part of your brain that is active during dreams is a focus on anomalies. So anomalies meaning something that's unusual or bizarre or weird, something that stands out. So statistically speaking, most people's dreams have a sort of negative relationship or connotation to the content. It feels a little off or weird, and that's because the part of our brains that are active during dreams is that focus on the weird, bizarre, or the anomalies. So it's not necessarily a reflection on your enlightened state of being or your perfect pure thoughts and mind. It's just a function of our brain that happens to be highly active during dreams. The other part in your brain that is active during dreams is the visual cortex of the images interpreted from personal associations. So you're having this entire movie played out in your dreams from images that you've associated personally. So you're not watching scenes necessarily that are far removed from you or that have nothing to do with you. It's not like you're somewhere else looking outwards into another scene. All of these scenes, all these images that are coming up are ones that you've subconsciously interpreted on a deep level in a sense of reference to self or personal associations or relationship. And it gets highlighted or illuminated through your visual brain, through your visual cortex. There is another part of your body and brain that is functioning in a certain way during dreaming that is monumental into your experience of dreams itself. And this is REM atonia, meaning that when you're in REM sleep, your brain tells your body to shut down, to completely shut off. Your body enters a paralysis, so you can't move, and this protects you from acting out your dreams. People have woken up in this state of REM atonia or sleep paralysis, and it often brings a lot of frightening feelings and terror because your brain starts to wake up and become more logical and rational and is looking at your body and feeling weird sensations like maybe pressure or heaviness or a sinking or a floating, and you get scared because it's not normal for you to not be able to willingly move your limbs and body parts. So often we just get scared and start to associate this with like nightmares or hallucinations or something like that. But this is typical, universal, and happens to each and every single one of us every time we dream. Our bodies completely shut down and we enter a state of little to no sensory input from the outside environment while we're dreaming. Our bodies become completely relaxed and are not doing anything, and our brains, on the other hand, are really active. There's a lot of eye movement and a lot of activity and things firing, and different processing is going on in the brain. A lot of research is still needed to be done to understand the phenomena of dreaming when we are sleeping. And in a nutshell, this is basically where we're at, and it helps to ground yourself with behaviorally understanding what is going on to you before you start to look at the dreams and the meanings and the feelings and the information from your soul and consciousness and getting taken to all these ethereal, nebulous places. It's important to know that as a physical being, this is what's happening to you when you're sleeping and when you're dreaming. And then from here, we can then begin to look into the other stuff that happens. So now let's talk about the words subconscious and conscious. They are key words into understanding the nature of your dreaming mind. We give credit to these concepts to the famous psychoanalysts Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung, who come from Europe and unearthed these concepts in the early 1900s, late 1800s. Let me also be clear in saying that there is no actual distinction between subconscious and conscious. They are merely terms to help us distinguish the tendencies of our mind and selves. It doesn't mean to imply that there is duality or separateness between what we're talking about, but actually we are still one entire consciousness. And we just use these to give reference on the either extreme of our tendencies. And this is why dreams are really important, is because they help our conscious mind widen its lens, widen its scope into perceiving what is the entire consciousness. And we can look at it like this. The subconscious is huge, while the conscious mind is small. The conscious mind is what we use in our daily lives to have a sense of order of operations, of logic and control to the chaos that is our earthly experience and perception of all of the stimuli in the universe. At this point, we can't perceive infinity and eternity consciously all the way. This is sort of what our subconscious is involved with, and we have this zoomed in, this smaller valve or lens of our conscious mind to help kind of give us more concrete control and understanding into our waking lives. This conscious mind operates analytically and logically and rationally and puts things in an episodic order of events. And our conscious mind is also a coping mechanism to push aside or avoid things that we don't want to deal with. Say you're at work and you're having a difficult time interacting with your boss, you can't consciously act on that or express it. So these emotions, these chemicals, these thoughts and feelings get pushed aside into the subconscious and stored in the enigma, in the karma that is you. And this is where you've heard about with dreams, you know, your repressions come up, your fears, your traumas, your sexual urges, because things of those nature are typically repressed. We don't allow ourselves to act on them consciously and let them rise to surface to be emoted and interacted with others. And we have social conditioning and social codes and constructs of acceptance. So consciously, we can't allow ourselves to go to these other spaces of what our subconscious is actually perceiving and processing at any given moment. And like I mentioned earlier, your subconscious is huge. Your subconscious is automatic. You don't have to do a thing about it in order to let it do its thing and let life live through you. This subconscious is aware of automatic processes that are happening physiologically at any given moment, such as physical sensation and feeling, like temperature, pain, body language, also breathing, heart rate, things like that. Your subconscious on multidimensional and cellular levels is interpreting and processing all of those series of events. And your conscious mind may not be aware of it. You may be busy caught up talking and doing a certain thing while your subconscious is monitoring your heart rate, is emotionally interacting and dictating how you're breathing and registering those biochemical emotional responses. Consciously you're not aware of it, but subconsciously it's happening. And your subconscious is also pooled in what is your long-term memory from this life, or perhaps even lives beyond this life. It has these sort of karmic imprints on impactful events that have happened to you emotionally, or beliefs or thoughts that you have formed. Your subconscious is aware of this. When you think about why you do anything the way you do, or the choices that you make in a certain moment in the day, how in control really are you? One can ask. You don't give yourself this whole entire menu right in front of you of all these different choices that you can have that you look at completely unattached. No. You make any choice that you make in your daily life because of all the things that have happened to you since you were born or before you were born, all the people you've met, all the interactions you've had, all the relationships you've made, the thoughts that you've had, the beliefs that you've formed. They come from a long series, a long chain of events to give rise to this moment and when you're making that choice. And your subconscious is aware of this. Your subconscious is aware of all this long-term coding. And your dreams, they come from this subconscious, this long-term memory. And so they bring up these things that you wouldn't have necessarily been aware of or thought about or remembered. And that's the power of looking and working with dreams as well, as you see these figures, you see these characters and places that had meaningful, impactful imprints on you, and you can then look at them and how they dictated in that context the emotion you felt or the choice that you made to decide and define who you are today. And the best way to become aware of your subconscious that is processing at every single moment and moment in between of your life is to activate a sense of presentness, of witness consciousness, of coming deeper into the here and now of your life. And I mean right now, literally right now. You can take a look, see what's going on for yourself. Go deeper into your core and yourself and see how you're processing and perceiving life around you, within you and outside of you. It takes time and practice, and it takes a willingness to look at the sides of yourself that maybe you had avoided or run away from. So if you feel ready to embrace all aspects of yourself and all aspects of yourself in the past and presently, and even looking into how that's dictating your future, if you feel ready to take a look at those and to widen your lens and scope of who you are more holistically into your entire consciousness, then you're ready to move forward and start to take a look into your dreams. And now let's look at dream hygiene. Dream hygiene is what I call a combination of practices for better sleep and practices to strengthen your dream recall combined into one, dream hygiene. And you can look at this divided into two parts: before bed or before sleep, and upon waking. Naturally, the better sleep you have and the better practice and intention you have going into your dreams will produce more vivid and lucid and frequent dreams. So, first off, before bed. As you're going to bed, it's important to think about your sleep hygiene, your environment and the space you create around going to sleep and your bed itself. And there are a few principles to keep in mind to maintain good sleep hygiene, such as not looking at computers or phones or technology screens into the couple hours before bed. These have a sort of lights and stimulants that will keep your mind superficially awake and wired even though you may be exhausted. So if you're looking at computers or phones before going to sleep, you're going to have a harder time letting the mind unwind and rest. And your mind will just be up even though your body severely wants to go to sleep. So keep the time for technology and stuff for the earlier hours of the day and evening, and keep that window of the last hour or two before going to bed free of the technology and computers and such. Also, it is important to get into the habit of not doing work tasks or job or any work activities right before bed. Oftentimes, doing work stresses people out or gets them a little anxious or gets their mind really hyper-focused and busy, and it's not conducive to the ambiance and that gradual delicacy of entering into the sacred space of sleep and dreams. So find a way to respect your lifestyle and respect yourself enough to keep work for the other hours of the day and not have it be that last thing you're trying to cram in up until the last minute of sleeping and then waking up again and doing that all over again. Another principle to take into account is to not be doing any sort of exciting or energy-raising activities before going to bed. Try to find time to maybe meditate or do activities that are calming, winding down, helping you release that stimulation and that hyperdrive of action and activity. And these can be things like spa time or self-care or having a phone call with friends or petting the dog, something like that. Try to find activities that are calming to you and relaxing before going to bed. Another helpful principle or practice is to set some mood lighting before going to bed in the couple hours before bed. So turn off the lights around the house, turn off the excess lights around the house, or dim them a little bit so there's sort of a mood, like an ambiance that you can create. And this really helps people because there is also something that happens in our brains with artificial lighting that will keep us superficially awake because we think it's daytime. So the body's rhythms will be more alert and anxious versus winding down like the hours past sunset, nighttime, naturally leading you into a state of sleep. Another principle to keep in mind is reserving the bed for only sex and sleep. Don't always be eating on your bed or studying on your bed or doing your work activities on your bed. Keep all of that for other areas of the house. And whenever you enter into bed, you will have that energetic response and that behavioral cue to shift into a different space, such as sleeping and dreaming. And don't bring all that other energy of all those other activities into the bed. It will clog up the mind and the way you approach the practice of entering into dreams. Another helpful principle that we often have to remind ourselves of in this day and age is to not drink caffeine before going to bed, and depending on your sensitivity and intake of caffeine throughout the day, keep caffeine for earlier in the morning and afternoon, and don't be drinking any caffeine in the later hours of the evening and night. And instead choose herbal teas or calming and relaxing teas that help the mind unwind and the body relax. And another thing I'll mention here for a practice on better sleep is to read before bed. Instead of watching movies, because that would, or TV, that would, bring up the technology and the screens again, rather read a book. This helps you become more into yourself and into your mind, and having that single pointed focus and concentration, which you can apply directly into your dreams and lucidity. And it also helps you tune out the rest of the environment and get more involved with your imagery and using your own brain. Reading is very helpful, and for the most part, most people have an okay time reading before going to bed. If reading keeps you awake, then don't read. And with anything that I've mentioned so far, find what works for you. We are all individual people with different lifestyles and biochemical makeup, so take some of these principles into account and modify them to suit your needs best, and consider looking into other resources on adjusting your lifestyle and routine to set you up for having better sleep. We've just looked at practices for better sleep, and now I will continue in to blend this with practices that will induce more frequent, vivid, and lucid dreams, giving the meaning to the term dream hygiene. So, some practices before bed to tailor towards enhancing this dream luminosity include doing some body work before bed in the couple hours before bed. This looks like yoga, or maybe some light calming dance, or authentic movement, or massage. You can have a partner give you a massage, or get a massage, or do it to yourself. Anything that puts you into the energetics and those subtleties of your body and its experiences. Because, as I mentioned earlier, in the brain science of your dreams, the part of your brain that is very active during dreams is your physical sensation and movement. And this physical sensation and movement paints the symbolic representation of the events and content in your dreams. So if you get into a practice more frequently before bed of getting into your body, you're going to see more presently what's going on for you, how you're feeling, and where you're at in your life. And when you go to sleep, this is going to come up in your dreams. So if you start to have more of that understanding and your awareness when you're awake right before bed, you're more immediately going to understand what you were feeling and why during the dreams. And the yoga, I recommend not doing any vinyasa or heat building, yang building sort of yoga sequences. Rather, do something more yin and restorative and calming. And the pranayama as well. Don't stoke your fire. Let it simmer down. Let yourself relax and enter that meditative space. And meditation also hugely helps your connection to your dreams. There are a few types of meditation that you can do that will really help, such as guided imagery, because, as mentioned earlier, your dreams are visual and they're processed through your visual cortex and your personal association with those visuals. So pick some guided imagery meditations. There are so many apps that you can find for free, or other meditation teachers that will offer you all kinds of different guided meditation options, guided imagery options specifically. So find one that speaks to you, that speaks to something you're working on or something you want to visualize, and do that right before bed. It will help strengthen your connection to your visual cortex and get you set up to be focused on watching that visualization take place, play by play, as it plays out in your dreams as well. Another helpful type of meditation are binaural beats. There are certain frequencies that will either excite the mind and get it anxious and very busy, or certain frequencies that will relax the brain, allowing it to enter deep subconscious meditation and creativity and relaxation. So if you go online and look up binaural beat meditations, look for the ones that are more in the theta brainwave frequency. And the theta brainwave frequency is where you're at when you're dreaming. So find the binaural beats, the different music blends or variations that speak to you and your preferences, and use those before going to bed as well. Or even have these frequencies playing on in the background as you're still going to sleep. Set it to still play for that first hour when you're falling asleep, to help get deeply into the programming of your subconscious. Another type of meditation that I recommend is Yoga Nidra. Yoga Nidra is a great practice, a great type of meditation to use before going to sleep. It goes through your physical body, helps you with intention setting and finding a sacred space within yourself. And this is all totally helpful for just being a human and getting your mind set up to dream, because it has the physical sensations and awareness, and it has the calming of the mind and relaxation, and then it also has the intention setting. So you can use the intention setting in Yoga Nidra to align with the intentions you want to set for your dreams. So generally, there are some practices before bed that you can do in the few hours before going to bed to set you up to enhance your dream luminosity. And now we're going to narrow in to the little window of time right before you fall asleep. And this is dream journaling. This is after you've done your body work, your meditation, the mood lighting has been set, you haven't drinking any caffeine, you've got your herbal teas, you've relaxed, you've unwinded, you've maybe done some light reading, all of those things taken into account. The very last thing you're going to do before you fall asleep is dream journal. So I recommend getting a separate journal from the rest of the diaries and journals that you may have, or work notebooks or something. Get a separate dream journal so that way it feels like you can distinguish it from the rest of everything else that's going on for you, and it feels special. It feels like something you can go to and connect to this magical place that dreams are. We often dream about the last thing that was on our minds before going to sleep. So this is why you take your dream journal and keep it with you in bed, right on your nightstand, as the last thing you do before you go to sleep. And there are a few techniques I can recommend. First technique is to set a dream intention. You can ask for some guidance from yourself, or asking the other realms that you want to visit in your dreaming world to be set up with certain information or messages or experiences that you want to have. So in your journal, you can write your dream intention, describe it, what you might be looking for and why, and how this aligns with your values and yourself. When you're also setting your dream intention, you also open up a dialogue with your deeper innermost self. And this deeper innermost self comes up in your dreams. So you're having more direct communication and relationship with your deep self when you're dream intention setting. And you can also ask for specifics with this as well. It can be certain people or events you want to align with and revisit, or it can just be more general, I would like guidance with my relationships, or I would like guidance with my love, or something like that. It can be either. It can be a little more vague and general, or it can be more specific. You choose. But go ahead and journal and set that dream intention. The next technique I recommend is reaffirming yourself with the sentence, "I will vividly remember my dreams." People do dream every single night, as I mentioned, but some people struggle to remember them. So by writing the sentence over and over again, "I will vividly remember my dreams, I will vividly remember my dreams," and watching that pen on paper and watching those words be written out and connecting those emotions and beliefs to the fact that you will remember your dreams will set you up for success, and you'll have a better chance at remembering them if you believe that you will remember your dreams before going into sleep and dreams. The next technique I recommend is writing a letter to Psyche, capital P-S-Y-C-H-E. I learned this term when I studied the work of Carl Jung, and he believed that when you enter dreams, you enter into the domain and realm of this being known as Psyche. And Psyche has its own agendas that are much larger than you and more comprehensive of the bigger picture of the universe. And it has certain messages or experiences that it's going to want you to go through the content of your dreams. So you can write a letter to Psyche in your dream journal and say, "Dear Psyche, please show me why I struggle with this so much and why it keeps happening to me over and over again. Blah, blah, blah." You insert whatever dialogue you want there. You have your own relationship with Psyche and it looks different for you. So go ahead and explore that, and you can try it out, writing a letter to Psyche and then sign it from yourself, your own name, however, in whatever language you want to use. And lastly, what I'll recommend right now is to pick any of these dream journaling techniques and then keep your dream journal open. Place it on your nightstand or next to you in bed, wherever is convenient for you. And keep the pen, keep the notebook open, and then turn off the lights and go to sleep. Keep this notebook by you, like I mentioned, because you might wake up in the middle of the night and remember different dreams. You're going to dream various amounts during the night, and when we wake up, like in the morning, we might not remember all of them, but if we wake up at different points in the night, we have all these different dreams that we can access more immediately. And you're going to be more in that dreaming, half awake, half asleep state. So the fresh access is going to be right there. So if you wake up, if you happen to wake up during the night, go ahead and roll over and journal those dreams really quickly. You'll be surprised that when you wake up, if you hadn't written it down, you would have never remembered, or some of those details that you wrote. It's really helpful. And now that you've prepared yourself and done all your journaling, you're ready to fall to sleep and enter your dreams. So, you've just gone through sleep and had a number of dreams. And in the second part, upon waking, there are a few critical pieces that will determine whether you remember your dreams or not, that you can put into practice. There is an art to waking up to help you remember your dreams and stay connected. If you switch gears too quickly and just wake up and respond to your alarm and then rush into the activities of the rest of your day and enter into that hyper-functioning, rational, logical mode of your daily life, it's going to mute out and muffle and forget everything else that you were just experiencing from your dreaming consciousness. So the first thing is, upon waking, is to wake up really slowly and don't move. As soon as your mind awakens, just lay completely still. Don't move the body. And stay present with that nonsensical, abstract chatter that's occurring, because that same brain, that voice that was putting all those weird pieces together, is telling you the interpretations and the meaning of all of this bizarre stuff from your dreams. And so be completely still. Don't start moving the body, because that's going to turn on the other parts of the brain. And be present with it. Because during sleeping and dreaming, your body was shut down. It was entirely relaxed. And as soon as you start moving, you send that other signal to your brain to kick in and override. And the next part with that, with waking up slowly, is to not look at words or numbers when you do feel ready to move. You know, after you've laid there perfectly still, don't then first engage with looking at words or numbers, such as talking to somebody in the room or in the bed, or picking up your phone and reading messages, or looking at the time. Try not to be aware, because as soon as the language or the words kick in, those activate other parts of our brain that weren't able to operate during our dreams. Those parts of your brain were shut down. And they're so strong, they're so powerful, like I just mentioned, in our waking life, that they will squash, they will snap that bridge between the conscious and subconscious if you give power and precedence to the words and numbers of your logical mind. So just be patient with waking up slowly. There's an art to it. There's a gradualness that you'll get used to, and you can set your alarm to give space for this. If you need to be up and out of bed at 7, then set your alarm for 6:45 so you can do this. Being still, waking up slowly, not looking at words and numbers. And then secondly, upon waking, is dream journaling. And there are a lot of different ways to do this. And you know, perhaps you even woke up during the night and you journaled some of your dreams during the middle of the night. Cool. After you've waken up slowly, you're now ready to look at your dream journal and to add more from what you remember from your dreams. And this is the time when it's okay to then look at words and numbers and stuff. And just go ahead and write anything down, anything that you remember, anything that stands out in whatever order you want. As long as you start engaging in this process of putting the subconscious into the conscious, like right there, like flipping and turning it over when it's ready upon waking, that first thing, you will naturally just watch your dreams illuminate and enhance themselves before your eyes more regularly on a daily and a nightly basis, because you're telling your conscious mind to remember and that it's important to include this experience onto paper. And just the act of writing it down on paper will help you be able to step back and look at it rather than it get lost in thoughts and the background noise as you go throughout your day. You'll be able to look back at it and see some patterns and make different connections. And if you look into my second course, Dream Interpretation Sovereignty, we will go much more in depth than all of this and get really into all these different practices of dream journaling and interpretations and things like that. So if you're curious and you want to go deeper, I invite you to look into the next course, Dream Interpretation Sovereignty. But for now, just the act of journaling will help you, guaranteed. So there's dream hygiene for you. And with anything about the sleep hygiene principles or the routines before bed or journaling, find whatever works for you. Take into account your preferences and lifestyle and routines and things that are available for you, and find what works for you. This is your own exploration and your own process, and enjoy it. Try out new things and commit and dedicate yourself to the sincere intention of connecting to your dreams, and it will happen. So lastly, let's talk about lucid dreams. And what it means to lucid dream is to become aware that you're dreaming while you're dreaming. And then the act of lucid dreaming is being able to consciously interact with your dream scene. Lucid dreaming is a hot topic, and there are lots and lots of other publications and teachers and experts in this area who can offer a more in-depth look into the practice of lucid dreaming. There are many benefits to lucid dreaming, such as being able to interact with the drama that's being created in the dream scene, the different characters, the emotional patterns and cycles, and some of the nightmares, those different figures. If you're able to lucid dream and rewrite it into something different and recreate a different, more positive, happier, self-fulfilling story, that's awesome. It's an incredibly profound experience on a deep psychic level to interact with the dream scene lucidly like that. The other draw to lucid dreaming is the entertainment value of being able to have some fun and decide to fly or to run really fast or manifest certain objects or people to come into the dream scene with you. It's gains a lot of popularity for that aspect as well, and is a little bit why I initially turned away from lucid dreaming to begin with. The magic, the power, the messages that I have learned to evoke from dreaming consciousness don't necessarily go into those lucid dreaming practices. Although the work that I do, and if you look into my other courses, very much does involve lucid dreaming, it's not for the sheer sake of lucid dreaming. We look into so much more than that and apply so much more into our waking life with it as well. But nonetheless, it is beneficial and it is important and it is fun. So I will give you a few general guidelines here to help set you up to become more lucid during your dreams. First tip is to do a weird check throughout the day. As you're walking around, just randomly pause yourself and say, look at something and say weird. Like associate something standing out to you or coming off bizarre or unusual to kind of get you to pique your interest and what is that? So you can apply that same perception, that same notification to self in your dreaming world. Because when you're in dreams, you just kind of accept everything that happens to you. It's kind of blurry or convoluted, but you're not really waking up. Nothing's maybe piquing your interest as much. And if you can learn to do that on a more mundane, basic daily basis, you'll be able to then remind yourself to do that during the dream. Like, that's weird. Oh, I must be dreaming. Weird checks, first tip. Similarly, a second tip is to do hand checks during the day. You can, as you go about randomly, or setting timers or anything like that, you can just look at your hands. Look at the palm, look at the back of your hand, and touch your hands together. Just kind of do some of this hand connection, this hand perception. It's funny if you look into dreams whenever you look at your hands, they'll change or they'll do different things. So if you can recognize like the normalcy of your waking reality with what your hands look like and what they should look, what they should do, or what should be going on for them, you'll realize when you do that hand check in your dream, when you'll remind yourself to do your hand check, that your hands, maybe there's like some superpower or something happening with them, or maybe one of them is totally distorted, or one of them can pass through the barrier of the other one. There's all these weird things that'll happen with your hands when you're dreaming. So if you do a hand check during the day and then you remind yourself during your dreams to do a hand check, and you notice that unusual thing happening, you'll say, I'm dreaming. And then you'll be able to like catch yourself to become more lucid. The next lucid dreaming tip is to do a check throughout the day of asking yourself the question, am I dreaming? And then look around your scene, look around your environment, and sincerely mean what you're saying with the question and finding the answer to it. Say, am I dreaming? Yes or no, and then give yourself the reasons why. And then when you enter into the dreams, and if you can ask yourself that same question, am I dreaming? And then start to notice like why you may say yes, you are dreaming, or no, you're not dreaming. Either way, you'll cue yourself to become aware, because you'll notice the discrepancy between your waking reality and your dreaming reality and say, oh my gosh, I am dreaming. And then that gives you a sense of freedom, and you'll be able to engage all of these other potentials that can happen for you in the dream scene once you realize you are dreaming. So just ask yourself that question throughout the day, am I dreaming? And then try it out when you're dreaming. Next lucid dreaming tip is to flip on and off light switches in rooms. It's kind of funny when you do this in your waking life. You'll be the person that just walks in a room and it'll just like flip on and off light switches, and people be like, what are you doing? And you're just like, oh, just checking if I'm dreaming or not. And when you do this in your dreams, it's really common and it's been studied, and there's this weird phenomenon that happens to most people when they're dreaming, that if they go to light switches and they turn them on or off, they don't work. They'll either be all on or off or whatever. They just don't work. So get into the habit of checking yourself with light switches on and off throughout the day as you enter different rooms, and then you'll be able to behaviorally condition yourself to randomly try this out during your dreams. And you'll enter into a room and turn off light switches, turn them on and off, and see how they operate weirdly, and then you'll notice, oh, I'm dreaming, and then you'll be able to become lucid. Another lucid dreaming tip is to set an alarm through different stages of the night to wake you up, because you have more REM stages of sleep and more dreams during the later hours of the night. And there are these different apps and technologies that you can use that will monitor your sleep patterns and take into account the amount of hours you have to sleep. And then they'll be able to sort of predict when you're going to be more active in longer states of REM sleep. And you can have these alarms wake you up during predictably that stage of REM sleep, and you will sort of wake up for a moment and then have all this content and conscious awareness of dreaming and waking, and then you'll be more awake to then go right back into that REM sleep and enter into that lucid dream with conscious awareness. It tends to work for people, and quite surprisingly enough. Maybe that's something you want to try. If you find it disruptive to getting a full quality night of sleep, don't try it. Maybe you just want to try it out sometimes just to have fun and play around and see what comes up for you. The last thing I'll say about lucid dreaming for now is that if you take into account all of the things we have previously discussed in dream hygiene, you will naturally and automatically be setting yourself up for having more frequent, vivid, and lucid dreams. So there you go. I hope this Dreaming Consciousness 101 material serves you positively with your relationship to dreams. If you feel motivated to go further and deeper into a dreaming practice, I invite you to look into my other online courses. In these other online courses, we go much more in depth with the theory and practical application of the magic of your dreaming consciousness, and you will be given a lot of practices and take-home exercises and activities that we will go through together as we work through the material. If you're interested, you can find these courses at One Sweet Gaia, as well as New Earth University, and the according links are posted below. If you have any questions, want to reach out, talk to me about anything, you can find me, Analee, at One Sweet Gaia as well. Thank you for your time and dedication. And finally, I honor the place in you in which the entire universe dwells. I honor the place in you which is of love, of light, of truth, and peace. Namaste.